The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. Sign up with the SGPN. Get 50% bonus up to $1,000. That's with the Edge Boost. Over $1050 per month on your sports gambling transactions. Get edgeboost.bet. Promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. A reminder that they are the leader in data-driven picks and props. Try it out for free for a week by going to sports.com. SHARATHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Sunday night, February 16th, roughly 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Your host, always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the two upcoming events in Doha and in Rio. So we're going to preview both those events in a second. We do have quarter odds, by the way, for Doha. So we are going to be going through the quarters of Doha and the outrights to win the event first. Then we'll do Rio. We only have outrights to win the event in that tournament. So once again, we will have a little bit more in-depth coverage for Doha, but still we're going to cover both those in a second. For that, though, do want to recap what happened last episode for the lock and dog and for the actual matches that took place on Sunday. Starting off with the actual lock and dog, overall decent episode, ended up winning with the lock, had Humbert to win the first set and the match at minus 135. Played out the way I thought it would. Thought that Humbert would go up a break early. He did. Gave it back, but eventually did win in a tiebreak in the first set. Then eventually did win in straight sets. He got a break to win the match in straight sets. So Humbert did not drop a set in the entire tournament. Won back-to-back titles in Marseille. Overall, good outcome for us. For the dog, though, picked up a loss. Had the final in Buenos Aires to go over 2.5 sets between Cerundolo and Fonseca. Didn't happen. Fonseca kind of dominated most of the match. Cerundolo, though, clawed somehow to a tiebreak. He was down a break twice, with Fonseca serving for the tournament twice, and he got broken both times. So Cerundolo was able to survive, I'd say, near elimination twice, and then lost in pretty big fashion in the tiebreak. He got blown out. I think it was 7-1 in the breaker, maybe 7-2. Point is, they ended up seeing Fonseca really just dominate the entire breaker. So despite the good effort by Cerundolo to fight off elimination twice, eventually it was false hope, as Cerundolo did lose convincingly in the tiebreak. But overall, ended up splitting the lock and dog picks. However, for the bright side of the equation here, we do have a couple of outrights to recap that we ended up winning. For Humbert, we had a double win. We won the lock on the first set and match minus 135. We also had Humbert to win the event pre-tournament at plus 600. As they got there, once again, never dropped a set. Pretty dominant showing by him. Back-to-back titles there in his home country in Marseille. And he's been really good on hard court over the last couple of years. Definitely been one of the, I'd say, most improved players over the last 2-3 years. And he looked like, again, there in Marseille. So nice double win for us on Humbert. We also won Del Rey, as we had Kecmanovic to win at 12-1 in, once again, what we thought would be a pretty, I don't want to say open field, because we thought that Fritz would end up winning, but we knew Kecmanovic made the final a couple years ago, thought he had a decent path, so we took the, I'd say, longer shot approach with him as well as a flyer, and it got there as he won at 12-1. So we did not have Fonseca to win in Buenos Aires. Thought the odds were a bit too short for a guy with a pretty tricky path, facing off against, for example, Echeverry in the first round. Had a couple of 3-set marathons as well, so didn't like the path too much. Fonseca as well, never won a title before, did not want to take his odds so low, and he won anyway. Fonseca is going to be a top 10 player in the world, probably top 5 at some point. Not sure when. Point is, though, the sky's the limit for him, and he won his first ever title on a Sunday. So congrats to him getting the job done there, as he's going to be a serious problem in the, I'd say, near future and the long-term future for the entire tour. But nice job by him. Did not win that outright, though. The only event we did completely strike out on. But once again, winning 2 out of the 3 outrights with Humbert at 6-1 in Marseille and Kecmanovic at 12-1 in Del Rey is definitely a great overall week for us. And hopefully we'll continue that in the 2 events upcoming for the following week. Now, I do want to point out the actual, I'd say, matches and how they played themselves out on Sunday, because Fonseca said before he kind of controlled most of the match. Both sets were close, but Fonseca could have easily won 6-4, 6-4, for example, and then ended up blowing the serve for the match twice in a row to make it 7-6. But Fonseca seemed to be a step ahead basically the entire match, and Cerundolo was just a little bit too, I'd say, lackadaisical, and he was a little bit too, I'd say, streaky with the unforced errors, and it just felt like he was punting away too many free points, where Fonseca had the nice blend of firepower mixed with accuracy, at least compared to Cerundolo, enough to get the job done. Mentioned before, Humbert did win, same exact scoreline, but actually the reverse of Fonseca and Cerundolo, as he ended up seeing a 7-6, 6-4 compared to a 6-4, 7-6, but straight sets nonetheless. Then you had the Delray final, which was absolutely wild. So a reminder, we had Kecmanovic at 12-1 to win the event for this match. Fokina won the first set 6-3. So you figure, okay, Fokina was in good form, beat Fritz, beat Arnaldi, thought it'd be a close match. But I didn't end up covering that match in the last episode. Then you saw a blowout in the second set. You figure, okay, Fokina might have been conserving energy, trying to save something for the third set as he got blasted 6-1 in the second set. Then Fokina goes up early, and he's up a break 3-1. He also has another breakpoint chance in the 1-4 game to go up a double break. Does not convert that. Kecmanovic does hold, but either way, point is, it is then 5-2. In favor of Fokina with Kecmanovic serving, so the 2-5 game. It's 15-40. So Fokina, I've mentioned many times before, has never won an ATP title before. He's been close, but he has never actually gotten the job fully done. So 2 match points, they have a massive marathon point, which Kecmanovic wins. Then the next point, he comes to the net, hits the top of the net, bounces over, and then after that, the wheels completely fell off for Fokina, as he ended up losing 5 games in a row to lose the match. He was up 5-2 with 2 match points, and he lost 5 straight games and lost 7-5 in the final set. That's how we won. Kecmanovic 12-1. So once again, not easy at all. Don't really care. A win nonetheless. Fokina, though, there have been a lot of players in various sports synonymous with choking and falling apart in big moments. Fokina really might be the biggest tennis choker I've ever seen in my entire life. It's insane. If you want to go through the amount of matches that he has blown with basically the match either handed to him or just on the cusp of winning, it's insane how many collapses he's had in his pretty short tennis career. He's not that old, so hopefully he can eventually figure it out, but he ended up choking away another golden chance to win his first ever title. Damn, that's rough. 2 match points. He dropped 5 games in a row. It was basically the same exact story as the Navone and Fonseca match that we ended up seeing in Buenos Aires a couple days ago, except this was on a hard court, so it's worse. But once again, up 5-2, 2 match points, and you lose 5 games in a row. Brutal, but Fokina's choke job was, I'd say, to our benefit, as we ended up cashing another outright. I got to go through the actual numbers of how many outrights we've actually won this season. We might actually have won like 70% of the tournaments for outrights. We have been dominant for the outrights this season. I have to go back, but all of the events I'm thinking of, besides Buenos Aires, for example, we have just completely owned. So I got to go back and check. But I know we're definitely over 50%. We have been incredible when it comes to winning outrights in events. So hopefully you've been able to cash with us. We had Monfils at 18-1. We had Kecmanovic at 12-1. We've had some big prices too so far this season. Hopefully we keep it rolling here in the 2 events in Doha and in Rio. Before we get into the actual preview, though, of Doha first, I want to remember once again that we have a great overall promo going on with SGPN, because if you're looking for free daily picks on college basketball, NBA, college baseball as well with the college experience, NHL, and more, download the SGPN app free in the App Store, and there is a picks page with a bunch of free picks from the host. So once again, if you do want some bonus picks, stuff like that, check out the app, especially for college. Those college guys definitely add picks every day. There are sometimes like 30 picks on the actual sheet. So keep that in mind if you do want to get all picks available, I'd say more conveniently, then I recommend going there, especially if you want to listen to the college experience. And their live streams are like 2 hours. So if you want to cut through that a little bit, you can check out the page to get some free picks as well. Plus, a reminder, don't forget to show support for the show by subscribing on YouTube and Monitor. You'll leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Closing in on 780 for subscribers, trying to get to 800 by the end of the month. So once again, please help us get there. I think we've jumped up by about 100 and change over the last month. So thank you if you are new to the show. Hopefully you've enjoyed, once again, either the lock and dog picks or the outrights, all the above. But either way, please leave a rating and review on Spotify or Apple. If you want the audio version of the podcast only, please like the video and subscribe if you are on the YouTube version of the show. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great Tennis Gambling Podcast merch with sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs. Actually wearing the shirt right now. So if you do want the Tennis Gambling Podcast shirt, different colors as well. We have white, we have green. Check it out. Very affordable, very comfortable. Recommend getting yourself at least one from the merch store, not just for this show, for the other shows on the network. You have the tennis show, obviously. You have the MLB show. You have the NBA show, even WNBA. We have college experience, a lot of podcasts, merch. Recommend getting something from the merch store. Plus, a reminder, that we are brought to you by Edge Boost, because Edge Boost partnered up with SGPN, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. The Edge Boost card allows you the opportunity to avoid the hassle of being denied at the sportsbook, the FS site, sweepstakes site, racetrack, or casino. You'd also earn up to $750 per month in cashback rewards by using the Edge Boost card. Your money's also safe as the card is FDIC insured. And a reminder, the best part is that there are no credit checks and it's completely free. Sign up today though. Use the promo code SGPN so you get better cashback rewards and instant tier 2 status. Once again, use the link edgeboost.bet. Promo code SGPN, edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought by MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag. Once again, MyBookie is the place to bet on every sport. They have props on every game. They have live dealer casino as well. They also accept customers from a ton of locations, and you can definitely get your money and deposit easily with crypto. Easy deposits, lightning fast payouts with crypto. And a reminder, head to mybookie.ag with the promo code SGPN to get a great promo deal. 100% deposit match up to $1,000 and a $10 casino chip. MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished recapping our, I'd say, monster week on the outrights and recapping what happened in the finals on a Sunday. Time to move on to the upcoming events, starting off with Doha. Check out the comment section first. Looking at Shawnee, who's asking about the overall units. I mentioned this before in previous episodes. Once again, how you manage your overall bankrolls on you, but I tend to break it down, I'd say, with limited risk towards the higher odds guys when it comes to, like, I'd say 15 to 1 or higher, sometimes even like 12 to 1 or higher. It's a case-by-case study, but I feel like if you're going to go for a tournament favorite, I tend to do to win a unit, something like that. If Sinner's on hard court or Alcaraz is playing, maybe you can argue going a bit more. But I tend to use some type of incremental system where I will go with a bit more, I'd say, risk for the higher-end guys, and I'll slowly trickle down. So, for example, I'd say a 6 to 1 to a 10 to 1. I'll go like maybe 0.33 units, something like that. And then for, I'd say 15 to 1 or higher, I'll go with like 0.25, 0.2, something like that. So to answer your question, try to balance it out, trying to risk a bit more with the, I'd say, higher end guys that you actually have a higher probability of making a deep run, but also don't forget to show some love to the longer shots who can cash you some money, but also, once again, balance your actual, I'd say, risk accordingly based on how confident you are in people making a run. There are sometimes I will risk a bit more on a longer shot. If the draw is insane and I love the overall price, I might be willing to risk a bit more. So once again, case-by-case study, but try to make sure you do it responsibly and try to make sure you don't have all your money tied up in futures, because those can be a risky proposition. Anyway, moving on to Doha, starting off with the recent winners. We actually won the outright here last year. Had Khachanov winning, as he ended up beating Mensik in the final. Medvedev beat Murray the year prior. You saw Agut beat Basilashvili. Basilashvili beat Agut the year prior, and Rublev did beat Mutet the year before that. So Basilashvili actually had some drama because he ended up not making it into the event, as he wanted a wild card, didn't get it, and then swore he would never return to the event again. I guarantee you the people in Doha really don't care, but at the same point, you could argue that he was entitled to something, being a two-time finalist and a former champion. Maybe. Do I care? No, but that was a piece of drama that happened over the last day or so. Basilashvili claims he will never enter Doha again. So there you go with the drama. Anyway, for the actual first quarter, we're going to do the quarter odds first, break those down, then get into the outrights for the entire event. For the first quarter, this is the Alcaraz quarter. He's minus 200. Leshka is plus 500 after the injury that caused him to withdraw or retire mid-match against Hurkacz. Dimitrov's back after a layoff too, as he got injured. He's at 6 to 1. Morozin's at 10 to 1. Zhang is at 14 to 1, who also withdrew in his match against Bergs in the semis in Marseille. Nardi's at 20 to 1. Cilic is back at 35 to 1. Has not played for a while. And you have Dugas at 100 to 1. So simply put, not going to spend too much time on this actual quarter. I am going to go with Alcaraz at minus 200. I'm probably not going to bet this because I tend to only bet quarter plays that are, I'd say, 150 or lower. 2 to 1's a bit high, but I'm not picking anybody else in this overall section. Feel like the draw is pretty weak. You have a lot of guys who can normally be dangerous, but one, the path is difficult for them, and two, they're off injury. So, for example, the main two guys you end up seeing that you think can give Alcaraz a problem are Leheshka and Dimitrov, because they're both really good. The problem is they play against each other in the first round of the event. So with Dimitrov and Leheshka killing each other in the first round, the opposite side of the bracket, Alcaraz's path is Cilic, who has not played in months. Then you have Zhang off an injury or Nardi. So Alcaraz is cruising into the quarters, and you have Morozin, Leheshka, or Dimitrov in the bottom half. So yes, one of them in theory could beat Alcaraz, but that path is an absolute joke for Alcaraz into the quarters, and I'll let Dimitrov and Lehechka and Morozin kill each other. Give me Alcaraz minus 200 with nobody else. Don't see much value there at all. Minus 200, honestly, might be a good overall parlay piece if you want to throw it in something, because Alcaraz should really win that quarter. That is a joke of a quarter and a half based on the overall half of his quarter. I think Alcaraz is going to walk into the quarters blindfolded. So give me Alcaraz at minus 200 by himself as my only pick for the first quarter. Moving on to the second quarter, bit more open here. So for this one, this is the Djokovic quarter. He's taking on Berrettini, though, in the first round. So for this overall Djokovic quarter, you have Joker at minus 120, you have Draper at plus 300, you have O'Connell at 9-1, Griekspoor 9-1, Berrettini 9-1, Papirin at 11-1, you have Struff at 14-1, and you have Habib at 100-1. So for the overall quarter, Djokovic will be the popular pick because he has won this event before, and on top of that, Djokovic, we know, is a very good hardcourt player. However, the problem is he's also off an injury, as he ended up, of course, with retiring mid-match in the semis of the Australian Open. Has not played since, so you have to wonder how healthy he is. He basically tore his hamstring. Not officially, there was some type of other injury to it, but the point is it was not good. And it definitely was serious enough to warrant a retirement from the event. Now, Joker has won the event twice, has not won it, though, since 2017. So he has won it, but once again, a bit dated, as it's been roughly 8 years since he's won one in Doha. However, the point is, do I think Joker has a great path? To be honest, no. I said before, Alcaraz has a bye. Alcaraz has basically a bye in Cilic, who has not played in a while, then Nardi or Zhang, so a great path. Djokovic, though, has Berrettini in the first round, who he should be, but if the serve's good, Berrettini could be to compromise Djokovic. At least it's possible. There's a path there. If the serve is basically unreturnable, then you have Struff or Griekspoor. I think Joker should beat either guy. Griekspoor could be a bit tricky if he ends up serving volleying. And if Joker's not 100%, and then you're looking at Draper or Papirin. Papirin we saw beat Djokovic in the U.S. Open last year, and Draper we saw make the semis of the U.S. Open last year. So you have a couple of good hardcourt players here, and Joker has a pretty tough path. He's off the injury as well. I will not take Joker in the quarter. I think minus 120 is not worth it when you have Berrettini and company in your overall section. So instead, I am going to go to Draper at 3-1. I think it's a good price for a guy that made the U.S. Open semis last year. Had a decent run in the Aussie Open as well before eventually losing. But I think the 3-1 is a good price for an objectively good hardcore player. I'll take that number. And you're looking at his opponent in the first round, who has not had a great year this season with Papirin. 11-1 is a great price. Yes, you automatically lose one of these outrights in the first round, so you could tread lightly on these. But Papirin we saw beat Djokovic on hardcourt last year in a Grand Slam event. We know that Papirin is a solid hardcore player when he's on, and I think the path is very favorable for both guys. If you're looking at the winner of Papirin and Draper taking on O'Connell and Habib, whoever wins that Papirin and Draper match should be a pretty massive favorite in the second round. And then you'll be a dog against Joker, but I think if Joker ends up getting upset or gets injured again, then you might be the favorite in the potential quarterfinal. But I like the prices there at 3-1 and 11-1, especially with the Papirin giving Djokovic problems in Grand Slams on hard court last year, and Draper being a semifinalist at a hard court event last year. I think it's a good overall draw when you're on the opposite side of Djokovic and your second round match is a joke. So give me Draper at 3-1 and give me Papirin at 11-1 as my two picks there for the second quarter. Moving on to the third quarter in the event. This is the Medvedev quarter. Now you have Medvedev at 150. You have Felix at 3-1. You have Tsitsipas at 6-1. You have Khachanov at 750. Bergs at 9-1. Medvedev fresh off of the runner-up appearance in Marseille at 10-1. Halles at 16-1. And Agut, former champion, at 18-1. Now for the actual path here for Medvedev. Is the path favorable? Depends. Depends on what type of form you get Khachanov in, because he was really bad against Medvedev in Marseille. So we'll see how he looks in this one. Point is, though, Medvedev's been underwhelming too. He has not won a title in about a year and a half, so I can't trust Medvedev at all. I tried to take him in the semis against Medvedev in a good spot, and he got blown out in straight sets. Give me a pass on Medvedev. The second serve's too weak, and the mental game is not there anymore. So I will pass on Medvedev. I am going to pass on Khachanov because I think that, once again, you might not know what you're going to get from either guy, and I'll let them fight it off. Now, you're looking at Agut. I thought about it 18-1 because he has been a two-time finalist and a former champion. But damn, he's been in really bad form. He might be fully washed at this point, so I can't take him at 18-1. So instead, I am going to go to the other side of the quarter. I'm going to go to the Tsitsipas and once again, Felix section of the quarter. Felix did get injured in a recent event, but he was playing great tennis before that. He's already won 2 titles on hard court this year. 3-1 is a good price for me. I think that it's a good number, and I think his path is fine. Does have a matchup against House in the first round, who had a marathon win against Wawrinka in qualifying. I think Felix should beat him if he's healthy. 2 titles already, though, this year on hard court. So he's been in great form, and I think 3-1 to win the quarter is a good price. However, I'm also going to go with the wild card entry of the quarter. Give me Tsitsipas at 6-1. Thought he played well in Rotterdam. He ended up losing to Bellucci in convincing fashion, but the point is he was able to beat Griekspoor. He looked good in the event before that, and you're looking at the overall path, not bad. Medjedovic is the first round match, but he's off of a final appearance. I think he'll be exhausted. I think Tsitsipas has a good spot to potentially make a decent run in this event. But if the point is I'm picking Medvedev to struggle because he's been underwhelming for the last year or so, then I think Tsitsipas or Felix have a great path to make it into the semis. And if that's the case, give me 3-1 and 6-1 as my 2 choices for the value. I'll go with Felix at 3-1 and Tsitsipas 6-1 as my 2 picks for the outrights here in the third quarter. Moving on to the fourth quarter. This is going to be the de Minaur quarter. So for this one, de Minaur, off the final loss to Alcaraz in Rotterdam, took last week off. So for this one, he's a plus 135. Rublev's plus 225. Humbert's at 5-1, fresh off the title in Marseille. Dzanchop's at 8-1. Borges is 10-1. Safulin's 18-1. Bublik's 18-1. And Shelby is at 40-1. So for this one, de Minaur I have to take. His path's an absolute joke, and he just made the finals in Rotterdam. When he's not against Sinner, he's really good on hard court, and I think that it's a great path for him. So his overall path, Safulin in the first round, who he should end up winning, massive favorite against. Then Dzanchop or Shelby. I mentioned many times before, I think that Dzanchop's extremely overrated, and I think that de Minaur should beat him comfortably. Then you're looking at either Rublev or Bublik in the head case Super Bowl of the first round. I'll let them figure it out. And Humbert against Borges, who is also a first-round matchup, but Humbert might be tired after making the title and winning in Marseille. Now he's traveling to a different country. However, do want to point out, de Minaur at 135 is a great price. I have to take that on principle. The path is a joke, and if you're looking at Rublev and Bublik and Humbert on the other side of the bracket, or the other side of the quarter, having to face off against each other first before facing off against de Minaur, that is a cakewalk and a half. Give me de Minaur at plus 135. For the other outright, though, I am going to go with Humbert at 6-1. I found 6-1 on Bet365. Have to take that. I think that he's too good right now based on form. Borges, not a big fan of, and you're looking at Rublev and Bublik, who have been really underwhelming over the last couple of months at this point. But Rublev, I think, would lose to Humbert based on current form. Bublik can lose to anybody at this point. But if Bublik beats Rublev, would I be shocked? No. Coincidentally, it's a rematch, actually, of the default we saw last year when we saw Rublev get ejected for cursing at the line judge. So we have a little bit of potential fireworks brewing when you have a rematch of that matchup from last year. But still, point is Humbert, we saw beat Bublik last year in the same event, actually, as Bublik advanced to the final with that default. So the point is Humbert's done well against Bublik. I think he can beat Rublev as well based on current form. 6-1, though, is a great price, and he did not drop a set in Marseille. So yes, he did play a lot of tennis, but he really did not have any grueling matches. He kind of coasted in most of them. So give me Humbert at 6-1 and give me de Minaur at 135 as my 2 choices for the fourth quarter. Moving on to the outrights to actually win the entire event. Starting off with the odds here, you have Alcaraz at 150. Shop around, by the way. You have Djokovic at 350. You have Medvedev at 7-1. You have de Minaur at 8-1. Draper 14-1. Rublev 16-1. Humbert at 18-1. You have Lehecka at 18-1. You have Felix at 18-1, Dimitrov at 20-1. You have Tsitsipas 25-1, Khachanov at 30-1, Berrettini 40-1, Griekspoor 50-1. You kind of get the point. So for the outrights into the event, first things first, give me Alcaraz at 162. We had him in Rotterdam. He did not look great, but he won anyway. His overall quarter is a joke. He should walk into the semis, and I think with that being the case, it's a worthy gamble. Now, you might end up getting Alcaraz versus Djokovic in the Aussie Open rematch in the semis of this event. But Joker off the injury, I think, has a difficult path, and I do think Alcaraz, based on form, should beat Joker, because Joker, you don't know if he's 100% yet. We'll see, but I like the price there at 162. Moving on, I am going to go with de Minaur at 850. Great price. I have to take him. The path's a joke. He made the final in Rotterdam, and he's on the opposite side of the bracket of Alcaraz and Djokovic. It's a bargain and a half. Give me de Minaur at 850. And I am going to go with the guy from the same quarter. I am going to go with Humbert. Said before, DraftKings at 18-1 on Humbert. Can I interest you in 31-1 on FanDuel on Humbert, which is an insane price? I understand Humbert just played last week, and I understand that he won a title. So yes, fatigue could be an issue. However, 31-1 for a guy that just won a hardcore title, who in my opinion is top 15 in the world, and is a very, very successful hardcore player over the years in terms of titles. I think it's a bargain at 31-1. I'll take him as well. Thought about Felix, don't know how healthy he is, so I'm going to pass on him as he is around 18-1. I was concerned about the injury history, at least based on the recent injuries for him. So I'm going to pass on Felix, but I am going to go with Humbert as my long shot at 31-1. A guy that talented should not be 31-1. I don't really care. I feel like that's an insane price. I got to take it on principle. I'll take him as my other outright pick. So once again, my 3 outright picks to win the event in Doha. I'm going to go with Alcaraz at 162. I'm going to go with de Minaur at 850. And I am going to go with Humbert at 31-1 as my long shot. Moving on to the event in Rio de Janeiro. So moving on to the clay slate once again. For this one, you have a pretty interesting overall group of players. You have Zverev, who's back again after losing to Cerundolo in a pretty underwhelming showing there in his last event in Buenos Aires. For the recent winners, though, you have Baez beating Navone in the final. You saw Nori beat Alcaraz in that crazy 3-set marathon match, and then you saw Alcaraz beat Schwartzman the year prior. So you've had different winners. You've had a pretty decent blend of elite players and solid clay specialists. So once again, you might end up getting a pretty unpredictable matchups here, overall tournament, I'd say, layout over the course of these next few days. For the outrights, though, we have no quarters for the actual event or reminder, so we are going to go straight into the outright odds. We have Zverev at 240. We have Fonseca, fresh off the title in Buenos Aires, at 6-1. You have Cerundolo at 7-1. Should mention Fonseca, by the way, home country of Brazil, so expect a pretty crazy atmosphere every time he plays. Cerundolo's at 7-1. Musetti's at 10-1. I don't know what his status is. He's a bye in the first round, I believe. But the point is he did withdraw mid-tournament with an injury to his leg. So I know how healthy he actually is. Keep that in mind. I misspoke, by the way. Musetti plays a qualifier in the first round, does not have a bye, but I wonder if he actually withdraws. So keep that in mind. He withdrew from a quarterfinal match with a foot injury, and now he's back to play a 500. I'm skeptical that he will be able to suit up, but who knows? We'll see what happens. But the point is, Musetti right now is at 10-1. Baez is 13-1, defending champion. You have Jari at 14-1. Navone, defending runner-up, at 16-1. Davilo, 16-1. Fekina, fresh off the loss there in Delray at 16-1. Echeverry at 18-1. Seaworth Wild, 28-1. Montero at 28-1. If you want to go for a couple more Brazilians, you have Munar, who was very good in the hard court slate, back on clay at 28-1. Martinez at 30-1, fresh off the semifinal appearance in Buenos Aires. Darderi at 30-1. You have Diaz Acosta at 30-1 as well. Baena 4-1, Wlahovic 4-1. You kind of get the point. So for the overall path and the overall picks for the event, spoiler, I'm going to have multiple guys. I know I had 3 for the event in once again, Doha, but it's mostly going to be Alcaraz and de Minaur, so I did go pretty heavy with the chalk. For this one, I was willing to branch out a bit more for a couple of longer shots. See somebody mentioning for Andrew, top half of the draw at -190 in Rio to win. I don't hate that. I mean, looking at the actual people that includes in the top half, Musetti's in the bottom half. He might drop out. You're looking at Martinez, who I'm not really scared of. Fekina, who I don't know how he's going to look on clay after what happened. Baez, who's been struggling a bit lately, but he's defending champion. Tabilo's been a mess. But the top half, you get Fonseca, you get Jari, you get Cerundolo, and you get Zverev. Yeah, I can't really argue with you on that. I think -190 makes a lot of sense. You have a lot of, I'd say, you have better talent by a decent margin in the top half, especially if Musetti drops out. So I don't mind that angle. I think that's actually pretty sharp, -190. See, Andrew also asking if I have any thoughts on the Alcaraz straight sets and Draper moneyline parlay, -134. I don't. I think that should win. So that's kind of my thoughts there. Draper maybe because he hasn't played in a while, but I think he should get the job done in that one. So moving back to the actual outrights for this one, we did lose on the outright with him in the last event, but I think Zverev at 240 is a good price. Yes, I understand he has not played much clay tennis, but he did end up you won a match against Wlahovic 6-4, 6-4, then lost to Cerundolo in 3. But the point is Zverev still has a very good path. That's pretty much why I'm going to take him. The path is very favorable for him. Bu in the first round, who's definitely not a clay guy. Then Shevchenko or Alves. Shevchenko's not a clay guy. Alves is not very good. So Zverev should coast into the quarters. You have Heidi, you have Komasanya, you have a qualifier, or Jari. Jari just lost to Schwartzman. So who knows what we're going to get from Jari. He could be the wild card guy, the ultimate dark horse candidate, who's actually been decent in the head-to-head against Zverev, but I'm not sure if I could actually trust Jari to get there to face off against Zverev. So I am going to pass on, once again, going for Jari. I think he could do decently. He tends to do well in this part of the slate for the year, but I can't trust him for losing to Schwartzman. So give me Zverev at 240. Think his quarter's a joke, and I think his half of the draw is also not that bad. Cerundolo is interesting because he just made the final last week. I think he might have an emotional letdown after losing in front of the home country fans in the final. Not much time also to rehab and recover, so not sold on his options there. Fonseca, kind of the same boat. I am going to go with Fonseca at 650. Yes, I know fatigue can be an issue, and yes, I understand it's the same issue I just mentioned for Cerundolo. He's also a lot younger. He's only 18, so it should not be as big of an issue. Plus, he is in front of the home country fans. We saw him look great in this event last year in his first go of it, beating Fees, beating the likes of Green. He had a good run, and then eventually got tired and got injured against Navone, and he lost in 3. But the point is, Fonseca is playing great tennis. He's a future top 10 guy in the world. Yes, fatigue can be an issue, but it's in Brazil, and the crowd atmosphere alone, I'm hoping, will give him enough energy and juice to get by. But I think Cerundolo, once again, is going to be damaged goods for this event. You're looking at the other guys in the actual section. You have Muller in the first round, which I think he should win. Muted and Echeverry could be interesting. I think Echeverry should win, but I would take Fonseca against either guy. We saw Fonseca beat Echeverry in the first round in straight sets in Buenos Aires about a week ago. So I think that Fonseca, once again, is a pretty decent draw there. If you are low on Cerundolo, it makes a lot of sense to go for Fonseca, and then you get Fonseca against Zverev in the semis, which should be fun. But either way, I think that I'll go with the home country guy who is in great form and once again has the home crowd behind him. So I'll go with him at 650. Moving on to the other long shot, or I should say the first long shot I'm going to go with. I am going to go with Baez at around 14-1. For this one, defending champion took him last week. He ended up losing to Seabold Wild in straight sets. Like the overall path, not the easiest, but I think it's manageable. Should beat Nagal in the first round. He's like minus 400. You have Navone against Baena in the first round, which is very tricky. You can see both guys killing each other, and then Baez gets the scraps. Potential rematch of the final, though, in the second round, as Baez could take on Navone in the second match. Could be competitive. We saw Baez win the final pretty convincingly last year. But Navone, I think at the end of the day, can make it interesting. But I think Baez is better on clay. And I think that the overall quarter is a bit weak because you're looking at Tabilo, who's been a mess, who is the main guy in that quarter. I think Baez, defending champion, should look sharp here, and I think he'll look good. So give me 14-1, other side of the draw as Zverev and Fonseca. So I like the overall path for him. Was trying to find another long shot to go with. Thought about going with Lajovic or going with Munar maybe, but not the biggest fan of the draw. I might actually do Lajovic at 40-1. I think I could be talked into it. I think I am going to do that. I saw 44-1 for Lajovic, so I'm going to actually give that a shot there. He looked decent last week. We saw him lose in the second round to Zverev, 6-4, 6-4. No shame in that. Beat Baena in straight sets in the first round. Also quietly been good in Rio in the past, as he actually made the quarters in Rio in each of the last 2 years. But I think that if Musetti ends up dropping out, that whole quarter opens up. Fekina just played on hard court in an absolute marathon final, so he might be exhausted. Martinez had a pretty easy draw. That could be interesting if they faced off against each other. DeZumer's not very good on clay. Lajovic is good on clay. And he tends to make some noise in this actual tournament. So I'll go with him as my pick there. Munar could be an interesting case as well, but he might lose to Wild in the first round. So I'll go with Lajovic at 44-1 as my serious long shot for the event, mainly based on a little bit of personal bias, because I actually like Lajovic as a player. I always have. Good on clay, and when his form is on, he can beat anybody. Beat Djokovic on clay a couple years ago in a title match. I think he's got a good spot here to make some noise. Give me Lajovic at 44-1 as the long shot in what could be a very open quarter if Musetti ends up dropping out. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the actual outrights in Rio. So once again, we have Zverev at 240, we have Fonseca at 650, Baez 14-1, and Lajovic at 44-1. That's going to wrap it up. Time for the lock and dog picks for the first rounds in Doha and Rio. For that, though, remember once again that we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy because they have a great underdog pick'em, and a reminder that you can make some money by entering actual options into your entries, whether it involves NBA, NHL, college basketball, whatever sport you want, tennis too. They have tennis as well. A reminder, we also have promo with Underdog Fantasy. If you want to sign up for your new account, use the promo code SGPN. Claim special pick first time deposit over to 1K bonus cash. The special pick in first time deposit over to 1K bonus cash. Great promo there using the promo code SGPN. We're also supported by Rhythm. A reminder that Rhythm is a proud partner of SGPN. And if you want to try out betting models, Rhythm can help you do that. Because if you want to try betting models, you can use Rhythm to build one for you. You build it from scratch, copy it from the leaderboard in seconds. But if you want to try AI picks, Rhythm has it for you, whether it involves actual side spreads, once again, totals, or even props. You can try it college basketball, NBA, golf, NBA, bunch of stuff for Rhythm. So check that out. A reminder, you can also claim a free trial for a week by going to sports.com's Rhythm, sports.com's RITHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished breaking down the outrights for Doha and Rio. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I actually am going to go to a match in Rio involving one of the guys we took for an outright. I'm going to go to the Lajovic and De Zoomer match in the first round. And I'm going to go with Lajovic minus 2.5 games, minus 126 on FanDuel. Lajovic made the round 16 in Buenos Aires last week, lost to Zverev 6-4, 6-4. Said before, did beat Baena in straight sets in the first round. Not that easy. And losing to the French Open runner-up 6-4, 6-4 is really not bad. I think Lajovic actually looked pretty good in Buenos Aires. Did lose, but no harm, no foul there. Thought he was competitive, and he does have a good clay history on tour. He's won 2 clay titles in his career. De Zoomer's won 0. Yes, Lajovic is older, so that was about a couple years removed. But the point is, he is objectively speaking the better clay player in this matchup. And Lajovic, as I said before, has made the quarters in this event each of the last 2 years, while De Zoomer has randomly never played in Rio before. He's been around for a long time as well, so you have a battle between 2 veterans on tour. De Zoomer's never played in Rio. So I think court familiarity is a pretty underrated aspect when it comes to clay success. Not all clay is equal, or I'd say the same. And Lajovic, I think, will look pretty comfortable on the courts here in Rio compared to De Zoomer. De Zoomer had a pretty weird match in Buenos Aires, ended up beating Martinez 6-0 in the first set. Martinez was coming back from the hard court slate, then ended up losing in the first round anyway, as he lost 6-2, 7-6 in the next 2 sets. So De Zoomer, yes, he looked good for 1 set against Martinez, then fell apart. Think that De Zoomer, though, is going to be outmatched here. I think that Lajovic is better on clay, and he's definitely better in Rio. Give me Lajovic at minus 2.5 games, minus 126 as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go with a match prop in Doha between Struff and Griekspoor. Give me the over half a tie break at plus 110. If you don't have this available, I do not mind the over in this one. Thought about the over 2.5 sets, but Struff's been a bit underwhelming as matches have gone on, so I do have some concerns about his stamina as the match progresses. But the point is, the same bet's available at minus 125 on Bet365, so plus 110 on DraftKings, a great price, saving 35 cents by shopping around. 4 of Griekspoor's last 5 sets have ended in a tiebreak, so that is important to mention. He has been a tiebreak magnet lately. Both guys are good servers. They come to the net. Don't be surprised if you end up getting a lot of serving volume between the two of them. Both guys, though, not great at returning. Both guys are good at serving. I think you'll get a set, at least one set, with not many breakpoint chances, maybe 0 breakpoint chances, and you end up getting a pretty easy breaker. But point is, both guys are good servers, and I will point out, each of the 2 head-to-head meetings have been absolute wars, and each of the 2 career meetings ended up having a tie break. So the history supports the play, the overall style of play supports the play, and once again, 4 of Griekspoor's last 5 sets have ended in tie breaks. So I expect to see a long set minimum, maybe a couple, but give me the over half a tie break here at plus 110 for the value as my dog. So once again, the plays for the actual podcast, the lock's going to be on Lajovic, minus 2.5 games against De Zoomer at minus 126. For the dog, I am going to go with Griekspoor and Struff over half a tie break at plus 110. That's on DraftKings. Until next time, find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Find me on the NBA show. Find me on the MLB show. Find me on a bunch of podcasts of the network. And a reminder, we're back once again for the quarterfinals in Doha and in Rio. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.